I was a high-risk pregnancy because I have epilepsy. I am the proud mother of a soon-to-be 2-year-old boy with the dream of giving him a sibling in the near future. My name is Nicole, and I am a miraculous mama.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Joy, and we are a podcast that believes in empowering women through storytelling and education. And I'm so glad that you are here. I hope that you enjoyed last week's episode about parenting, being a parenting coach, because not one size fits all for anything, guys. It's so hard. You can read all of the different books out there and learn as much as you can, but going through it and experiencing it is the best lesson that you can have. Today, I have an episode for you on mindfulness in children. A lot of you with your New Year's resolutions said that you wanted to be more mindful as a family. And so I do have a few episodes in the next couple of months kind of going over mindfulness. Today I have Kellie and Hannah Baille who talk about going into schools and doing mindfulness there, but it's a packed episode full of really good information and how kids handle situations differently, how they act out differently, how they choose to maybe have their safe space with their friends or their safe space at home, and that's where they let loose. So it's a really great episode ahead. But you guys, January is Cervical Awareness Month. And when I first heard that, I was like trying to think of all these different things about your cervix, but it's actually it's a chance to raise awareness about how women can protect themselves against HPV and cervical cancer. So if you guys didn't know, HPV is the most common infection and sexually active disease that there is out there. There's about 79 million Americans that currently have HPV, and many of them don't even know that they're infected. And each year, more than 11,000 women in the United States get cervical cancer. So what you have to do in order to prevent this is practice safe sex and get your annual exams, because they test for this. There's only a few strands of the HPV that leads to cancer. But if that is the case, then if you get treated right away, it can nip it in the butt. They'll do a biopsy. They'll do a few different things in the office to treat it. You'll have a couple of appointments. It's super easy to take care of if you do have it. But I just highly recommend, if you haven't been tested, go get tested, get screened. For women, these types of things just tend to pop up more in women than they do in men, right? We're usually the ones that get all the symptoms from STDs and the men don't, which is completely unfair. But HPV definitely affects a lot of women, 11,000 a year, who end up in cervical cancer. So January is just Cervical Health Awareness Month, raising awareness around this. If you have not been screened in a while, make sure that you do. And especially if you are single and sexually active, make sure that you are practicing safe sex and talking with the partners that you are choosing to be with, because we're in a day and age now where that's very acceptable to have those conversations. So I just wanted to bring that up. For those of you who didn't know, 79 million Americans currently have it. So it's out there, and there is definitely something that you can do about it. So anyways, guys, we are halfway into January already. Pretty crazy. And I'm just so excited about what's coming up this year. I want to hear more from you guys. What do you guys want to hear in 2020? Please write me on the Miraculous Mamas Instagram. Join our Facebook group, Miraculous Mamas. The women there are awesome. Don't forget to check out the Twitter page. I tweet out a bunch of information on the episodes and about the different guests that are coming on. So make sure that you're reaching out to me, letting me know who you want to hear from, what topics you want me to bring, because I want to bring information that you guys are going to find valuable, that you guys are going to be able to use. And I really want to connect with the listeners. So knowing what you guys want, what you guys need, how you guys want to be emotionally and mentally is fed through this podcast, please reach out and let me know. But without further ado, I'm going to grab Kellie and Hannah. Hey, everybody. I have Kellie Baille here. She's the proud mother of Hannah, who's on this podcast with us today, and Doyle, who have been her best life teacher. She's a veteran speech-language pathologist of 28 years and a certified mindfulness meditation teacher. She works in public schools in the Mid-Coast, Maine, collaborating with K through 8th grade educators to help children learn how to be calm, cool kids. She teaches mindfulness and education at the University of Maine and provides workshops and trainings across Maine. She has most recently authored a children's book called Some Days I Flip My Lid. So we are so excited that she and her daughter are here with us today to help us learn how to be more mindful. I know so many of the listeners said that's their goal for 2020. And I mean, there's lots of days where I feel like flipping my lid too. So I feel like it's not just for kids.
Hi there. Thanks, Liz, for inviting us. Hannah and I are really thrilled to be part of your podcast. And we're both educators. Hannah works as an art teacher, and I'll let you, she can talk to you about that in a little bit. But yes, I've been a speech and language pathologist for almost 30 years, working towards that milestone. And it's been a tremendous career, and it's led me down so many different paths. And mindfulness, kind of came about really instrumentally in my life about 10 years ago for myself. I really came to it because of my own need to be centered and to kind of slow my pace down. So I naturally was able to work this into the work that I do with kids. And teachers were more than excited to have a new tool in classrooms. And about a decade ago, it was really difficult to kind of manage how we talked about mindfulness, just because there had been some religious connotations to it and difficulties with some folks who really felt like it was not going to be a good match for them, that it might be against, their specific religion or thinking the way that their families were thinking. But mindful schools and mindfulness and education over the past decade have really done a great job in breaking down the framework and really making it about helping kids just become more focused and attentive in their learning. And my work with the teachers, when I push into classrooms, the biggest urgency for them and the biggest need that they mention is, how do we get these kiddos to pay attention? How do we get them to sit and pay attention? And kids are coming from varied backgrounds, and we know all about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and we're learning more and more about that. Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris did a great job in writing The Deepest Well, and it really talks about, how trauma impacts kids and, humans. And when we are in that place of back brain protection, we're not able to pay attention. And so mindfulness has just been a great tool for us to bring into education, because we can operate from the assumption that not everyone's ready to learn right at that moment that we're ready to teach them. So bringing mindfulness in before we start a classroom activity is just a really natural way to bring the teacher into a place of just right teaching, and also students, being able to collaborate with that teacher and saying, yeah, I'm ready, or I'm not, and I need to do this, or this. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm glad that you touched on the religious part, because I even remember being told, when terms like that came out, that it was some sort of new age Eastern religion type thing. And it's not. Like, if you look at any religion, there's some form of mindfulness, and it doesn't have to be a religious thing either. It's learning how to center yourself, your thoughts, focus, all those things you're mentioning. It has really nothing to do with it necessarily. So no. I'm sure that was an obstacle to overcome.
Yeah. And even in our own family, I married a man whose father is a conservative Baptist minister. And he was very opposed initially to this contemplative stuff that his son's wife was bringing into their family. And he is one of our biggest supporters. He was so excited about Some Days I Flip My Lid, and, just breaking it down. Really, that book really came about from my work in classrooms, over the past decade, really bringing mindful tools into the classroom and talking specifically about our brain. And that's one of the things that I do as a speech pathologist in classrooms, is helping kids understand that you have a thinking brain and you have a protecting brain. And when your thinking brain is turned on, this part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, the part that processes and encodes and decodes and figures things out. And that's the part that your teachers need to have turned on so that, they can help you listen and learn and be optimal in how you approach your learning. And when your protecting brain is turned on, that's your amygdala, and when the amygdala is firing offline, prefrontal cortex is offline. We're not able to access it. And kids who come from places of trauma or who are impoverished or, just not getting what they need to learn, to listen and learn, are always at a disadvantage. And so if we can approach our teaching with kids through a mindful place, it just helps everybody to calm their central nervous system and get that amygdala, in that I'm okay. There's nothing wrong right now, right in this present moment. The way we define mindfulness is really being present right here, right now, right in this moment, and when we're mind wandering, or if we're thinking about the future or worried about, what's going to happen next, or thinking about something that happened, then we're not able to be in that right here, right now, on purpose place. So when my father-in-law was able to see the brain science and realize, oh, this isn't about religion, is it? Or this isn't, Buddhism or whatever,
Right.
His thoughts was about it, then it was able, if I can change a conservative Baptist minister's mind, I think that, most of us can wrap our brain around, what this all is.
Yeah, no. And it sounds like it's much needed. All right. I'm going to take a minute to talk to you about something, because on your iPads and phones at home now, there's so many games for your kids, right? But what's on there that's actually for you? If you're looking for a fun way to pass the time while engaging your brain and enjoying breathtaking visuals and a gripping story, your answer is Best Fiends. There's character collection, fun puzzles, and you can play against your family and friends, have a little competition. You can help them out. Best Fiends is a casual game that anyone can play, but it's made for adults, and you can spend as much or as little time in the game as you would like to. Best Fiends is a unique and exciting puzzle experience unlike other puzzles out there. It updates the game monthly with new levels and events, so it never gets old. Best Fiends treats the game like a service for their players. It does not require the internet to play. It's great for traveling. You can play anywhere, on your subway, on the commute, while you're taking a little break during your day, just to engage your brain, play some puzzles, and to have some other interaction maybe besides with just your children. You can collect tons of characters, and you can use them strategically for each level. Engage your brain with fun puzzles and collect tons of cute characters. Trust me, with over 100 million downloads, this 5-star rated mobile puzzle game is a must play. Download Best Fiends free on the Apple App Store or Google Play. That's friends without the R. Best Fiends. Have you seen, I guess, a difference over time in this work that you're doing?
Yeah.
Are there more kids that are struggling with being able to pay attention and learn?
Yeah, I think that we've just become more better equipped in our schools to be paying attention to the needs of kids and realizing, this isn't about the haves and the have-nots. This isn't about these kids are going to go off and be college kids. These kids are going to go into, we're just better at seeing kids as human beings. And what is it that we need for all kids to be optimal learners? And, I'm really, really blessed to be employed. I'm a contracted provider and in a school where they really take social emotional learning to the ultimate level. And we just are looking at, trauma-informed compassionate classrooms. It's not just for kids who are traumatized. It's a best practice for every human being, being able to be present, be aware of, I'm starting to flip my lid, or this isn't working for me, for teachers to be able to use that language. So, the things that we're seeing that are happening specifically, and, everybody's data driven these days, but we're seeing decreased referrals to the office, their learning by going to see the nurse because their belly hurts, when they're with teachers who are in a compassionate place of being with them, then they know that they can talk to their teachers and say, you know, I'm flipping my lid a little bit because I'm worried or I'm scared or I'm embarrassed. And teachers are also using that language. I'm in a really big district, and I've done workshops and trainings across that entire district, and it's really trickling across the state of Maine. My young daughter here is using this language with her own. She's just starting out, brand new teacher, and using this language. So I'm interested to hear what she has to say about this. But yeah, we're noticing that children are staying. You know, they're not avoiding, they're not escaping. They're feeling safe and connected and loved in the classroom. And when we employ mindfulness strategies, that's what happens. That relationship is formed.
Does trauma necessarily mean abuse or something like that? Like, how do you define trauma in childhood?
So I'm not a trauma expert by any means, but, you know, when we follow ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, there are 10 specific areas. And, you know, any trauma that a child has, a human being has been exposed to, divorce, it can be categorized. You know, if a child is in a divorced family and they're going back and forth and mom and dad are fighting, or if the child was exposed in utero to mom being abused, that's another trauma. And, you know, we don't often know. I have a student that I've worked with whose family, the mother was attacked by a dog.
Oh, wow.
And she is traumatized by this over and over. You know, she can't release that, you know, that horrific episode in her mom's life, even though her mom is fine. When this little person is at school, she is not okay because she's constantly reminded in her brain. She's constantly reminded of the horrific thing that happened to her mama. And she needs to be with her mom at all times to make sure her mom's okay. So, you know, there's so many levels of trauma, and every child and every human being will conceptualize that in the way that we're going to, depending on, you know, where we are in our neurodevelopment and how regulated or dysregulated we might be as human beings. And it really depends on, you know, what might be traumatic for one person could be completely indifferent, you know, another person could be indifferent to it. But it really comes down to what support network do we have in our lives, the buffers that we have. And I think that, you know, that's why we're looking at bringing mindfulness into classrooms and becoming more aware of mindfulness as a tool to help us form relationships and get the social emotional learning of children, you know, solid, because it does help us all calm our central nervous systems. There's no other thing that you can do besides breathing that really is effective to calm when you're flipping your lid.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you clarified the trauma. I just wanted, for the listeners who are listening, they're like, oh, well, my kid doesn't have any trauma. Like, I don't abuse them. Like, there still might have been other events in their life. Like, I know someone who not too long ago, they had a tornado that came through their town, and they had to wake their kids up in the middle of the night to run into the closet. And since then, the 3-year-old keeps waking up in the middle of the night and being like, there's a tornado, and like freaking out, you know, and she's dealing with some trauma, and they're going to do some therapy for it because, you know, it still scares her and it's affecting her. And so it doesn't mean that your kid isn't in a loving family or in a good home. There's still different forms of trauma that can come, and that could be something that's affecting your child paying attention or receiving the education that they need.
Absolutely. I mean, I can just tell you, and Hannah can speak to this. She's going to laugh. When Hannah was 5 years old, well, you can talk about it.
Well, yeah, when I was 5 years old, I got lost on a beach, and that was super scary, but I was totally fine, and I was gone for probably 10 minutes. But it kept me up all night long. Every night I had to know where my mom was. Didn't really know. My dad could be anywhere. But my mom, she needed to tell me if she left the living room, and I heard her walking around downstairs. I just thought I was going to be left and by myself. And I remember being worried in like Walmart, like, oh, where would I sleep if I got stuck here by myself all night long? And that was distracting me in school. And I would come home and I would just be nervous, and it was really causing me problems sleeping. So, yeah, it definitely doesn't have to just be something hugely
Yeah, scary. I think anything that any event or episode that triggers the release of fight, flight, freeze in your brain. interestingly for Hannah, that happened in the summer before she went to kindergarten. Yeah. And so, in July, she was lost on the beach. We were, making a sandcastle, and Mama, can I go over there and get some of those shells? Yep, come in. And I would watch her, and came right back. And Joel was down there too. And hey, Mom, can I go get some seaweed? And, and she just got disoriented and went the opposite direction. And by the time I noticed that, hey, she should be back with that seaweed, she was gone the other direction. And of course I flipped my lid. I freaked out and started screaming, and it was traumatic for me. And Hannah, toddled up to a lifeguard and said, hey, sir, do you work here? I've lost my mom. She knew exactly what she needed to do. We were, reunited. And again, it was maybe an episode of 20 minutes total. It was very terrifying for me as a mother, thinking, oh my gosh, my child has been abducted, because you always go to the last, the worst case scenario. And she was absolutely fine. About 2 months later, into her kindergarten year, it was that separation. She wasn't with me. She got on a bus. She was in a classroom, and she was having night terrors, and she was not doing well transitioning or acclimating to being in a public in kindergarten. And finally, it dawned on us that, she was having a post-traumatic stress from her separation, and she was having separation anxiety that was triggering that traumatic event that had been repressed, earlier on. So we started implementing, mindful strategies and a technique called bonding, and really just helping her feel safe, connected, and loved. And she's not the best transition person, even to this day as an adult. She can tell you that, when she has to, when she moved away, it was tricky. But we have to, then, she has her own mindfulness practice. So we both have, very greatly believe in mindfulness and just that whole premise of, I am okay right in this moment, when we can bring ourselves down to just this minute, this second. Nothing bad is happening right this second. Most of the suffering that we do is caused from our own mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one thing I tell myself and my husband too. It's like, whenever you get worked up over a situation in your mind that's not even happening right now, and that, or it's something that you have no control over. So the only thing you can do is to be present and to trust and to let go. And it's definitely not something that is just for kids. Like you said, you guys have your own mindfulness practice now.
Right.
I'm going to take a break from this episode to tell you about this company that is making stylish shoes for women and girls out of recycled plastic water bottles. And they're super comfortable and fully machine washable. Rothy's has quickly grown to a most loved, gotta have brand, and it's no surprise that they have over 1,000 nearly perfect reviews. They're stylish, sustainable, comfortable, washable, really an all-in-one pair of shoes, and they're perfect flats for life on the go. So I have flat feet, and they're kind of wide, and I can never find comfortable flats. Guys, this is a true story. Whenever I get flats, they always rub on the back and give me a blister, or they rub on the side, and you have to kind of wear them for a long time to try to break them in. But I just ordered a pair of flats from Rothy's. I got the Berry Latisse stitch. They're so cute. Loafers, and my feet do not rub. I wore them out the other night, and I brought a backup pair because I'm like, okay, I'm going to start wearing these, and then I'm going to start getting a blister, and I'm going to have to change. You guys, I didn't get a blister. They're seriously so comfortable. I almost didn't believe it, but then I tried it, and it's very true. And they are the perfect everyday shoe. They have so many different styles on there. They're so comfortable, and they come in an ever-changing array of colors, prints, patterns. They're available in a range of styles like sneakers, loafers, points, and more. They launch new colors and patterns every few weeks, and they sell out constantly. They are seamlessly knit using thread made from plastic water bottles, so they're ultra comfortable as soon as you slip them on. They are so comfortable, guys. It'll blow your mind that they're made from repurposed plastic water bottles. In fact, Rothy's has delivered over 39 million water bottles from landfills already. How crazy is that? And another major bonus, they're fully machine washable. So anytime you need a refresh, you can simply toss them in the washing machine, and it's like getting a new pair. They are definitely worth it, guys. They're helping save the planet. They're going to be the most comfortable shoe you own, and you can just wash them and they're brand new again. It does not get any better than that. Check out all of the amazing styles available right now at rothys.com/miraculous. Go to rothys.com/miraculous to get your new favorite flats. Comfortable and sustainable. They are the shoes that you have been waiting for. Head to rothys.com/miraculous today. Before we get into your book, I would love to ask you a question just about a lot of our listeners. I asked them their resolutions, and a lot of them said they want to be more mindful as families. So do you have some tips for them to try to bring that practice into their homes?
Yeah. In some of the workshops and trainings that I do with parents, caregivers, and with educators, the first order is to really start with the self, right? And I even know that when I was teaching these classes for the University of Maine at Farmington, I had a principal who took the course, and I remember he filled out the survey and said, if I wanted Kellie Baille to give me 8 weeks of mindfulness strategies for myself, if I'd known that's what I was, signing up for, I wouldn't have signed up for this course. I really just wanted this person to help me make my teachers mindful so they could make their kids mindful. And so the first thing I would love to just tell your listeners and to share is that we can't make anybody be mindful. The first thing that we do is we adopt a mindfulness attitude, for ourselves, and recognize really early on that, when I am stressed or when I am overwhelmed or when I am feeling scared or worried, that energy is going to be dispelled to other people, that I'm going to give that over to other people, and other people are may or may not be equipped to deal with that. And so as educators, it's really important for us to start, our day. The way I ask, or invite people is, to set a mindful intention for your day. May I be patient? May I be aware? One of the things that I find that was I found really eye-opening for me is how, as human beings, we can be in that place of automaticity very often in our lives. So just for an example, getting in your car and driving from, your home to work, and not really even realizing how many stop signs you went through, or, I know in my past, I know I've left my driveway and pulled into a school and said, oh my gosh, I don't even remember, being in this 30-minute commute. And so that automatic, that automaticity is just the doing. And we're not human doings, we're human beings, And so that was something that I learned very early on when I was at Tufts University for a mindfulness symposium, a 4-day intensive. That was one of the first practices that I learned is to be humble in my humanness, and that when I can stop just for a second and not do, but to just simply be, is the first practice. And setting a mindful intention every morning, before your feet hit the floor, you're laying in your bed, maybe just to do a practice of gratitude as you open your eyes and realize, oh, I'm alive and I'm breathing, and this is good, and this is a blessing. And before you swing your legs out and your feet hit the floor and you go on your morning routine that we all do almost through an automatic, pilot sort of thing. A mindful practice could be, brushing your teeth mindfully, feeling the bristles of the toothbrush, on your teeth. When you're in the shower, actually feeling your hands in the hair, the soap, noticing the temperature of the water. As you're boiling your water for tea in the morning, listening to the sound of the water. So just adopting and noticing how you can be more mindful in just every moment of your day. And it's almost like without ceasing, and it doesn't mean that you're not activating thinking, but you're thinking on purpose. So when I teach mindfulness to people, I teach it we're going to do this on purpose. So we're going to make this intention on purpose. And then you just, every now and then you just say, oh, did I make a mindful intention today? Oh, I didn't. I stop and I do that. And so the automaticity of life just absolutely slows down. And instead of just moving through your life without, conscious awareness, we're back to a place of, oh, this is a beautiful thing that I get to be in this life today,
Yeah.
So Yeah.
It sounds like it leads to living on purpose, basically.
Absolutely.
And you had made a statement in there that just made me think about, you know, how you said worry can kind of start to affect or trickle down in different ways. So it sounds like if I want my home to be more mindful and I wake up and I'm automatically worried and distracted, and kids pick up on the energy, and it's kind of going to be a domino effect in my home. Right. But if I wake up and I'm mindful, that could be a domino effect. So it's kind of, as the parent, you're setting the tone.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you mentioned that because, you know, several years ago, I was a small business owner. I had 9 employees and a practice with 126 kids. You know, I owned this practice with an occupational therapist. I adore her, still adore her. But I was just working 13 hours a day, and I could come home at 8:00 at night, and my husband would be here with our 2 children, and they would just be, you know, sacked out on the couches and just doing their thing. They'd already had dinner. They already had their, you know, they had done their homework, and I would walk through the door at 8:00 and just be, you know, raring to go. And I could change the atmosphere and of their, you know, their lives within just moments of walking in. And, you know, just seeing dirty dishes in the sink could just, you know, trigger me. And they're all, you know, all of them are just in this very place, you know, just present place. And I've been at work for 10 hours and an hour commute, and I haven't had dinner. And so I'm running on empty. You know, my resilience and my reserve well is done. And I would come in and change their lives in a matter of seconds. And I remember when I really made that realization that I'm turning my family's life upside down, that something has to change for me. So, you know, adopting that mindfulness, you know, that was 10 years ago. And really, really realizing that I needed to make some changes and adjustments and doing that for my own health, but also because of what it was doing to my family. But yes, you know, being mindful when I'm not, my daughter will say, "Mom, remember, you're not a human doing. You're a human being. You know, you're doing the best you can." So she's, you know, when you walk the walk, you know, you talk it and you walk it. But it's super important, and it begins with us. We have to decide that our lives are worth more than just the rat race. And mindfulness allows us to do that. Once we are consciously aware and you become more aware that you're not present, you crave it, or at least I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that quote that we are not human doings, we're human beings. I wrote that down. I'm like, oh, that is so good. Because
that's
so
not
true.
Original. I think that might be John Kabat-Zinn's quote, the master of mindfulness. But I say it a lot. We're not human doings, but we certainly try to be, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we all kind of live in this fast-paced, chaotic world, and you're just trying to keep up, you know. All right, I'm going to take a quick break from the podcast to tell you about one of my new favorite brands. So getting ready for work and deciding if today is a stylish day or a comfortable day. I mean, for me, it usually is comfortable, but I like to look nice sometimes. And now, thanks to Beta Brand's dress pant yoga pants, you do not have to decide. That's right. Dress pant yoga pants. They're stylish, comfortable, professional attire, and you shouldn't have to pick between comfort and looking nice. And with Beta Brand, you never have to sacrifice comfort or function for style. Beta Brand's dress pant yoga pants are super comfy, perfectly stretchy, and they stay wrinkle-free. For those of you that do not iron like me, that is such a bonus. And they have all the style of dress pants with the stretch, fit, and feel of yoga pants. I actually just ordered the skinny leg merinos. They're in dark navy, and they are so comfortable. I can put on a blouse with them, and I look like I got dressed up for the day, but I'm wearing yoga pants. So crazy. And whatever style that you choose, Beta Brand has pants that are going to match you. Choose from dozens of colors, patterns, cuts, and styles like the boot cut, straight leg, skinny, cropped, and more. They even have a pair with 8 pockets. That's right, 8 pockets. And now they also offer premium denim with the same flexibility and comfort as yoga pants. Right now, our listeners can get 20% off their first order when you go to betabrand.com/mamas. That's 20% off your first order at betabrand.com/mamas. Millions of women agree that these are the most comfortable pants that you'll ever wear to work. Go to betabrand.com/mamas mindfulnessbook.com/mamas for 20% off. I feel like as I've gotten older, I feel drawn toward, I don't even remember the name of the book now, but there was a book that I read about basically it's being intentional with your time. And, and when you do that, you feel so less spread thin, which is true for me. It's like, okay, if I set certain hours where I do certain things during the day, like I don't have to constantly be on my phone. I can tell people I reply to emails between this time and this time. So if you're emailing me at 9:00 at night, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Like I don't, you know, like you don't have to instantly be there for everyone all the time. You can set your own boundaries. And when you do that, people 99% of the time respect it. And it allows that other time to be mindful, to be present, to be focused on what's in front of you instead of like, oh, is that person emailed me back if they whatever? And just being like, oh, okay. I don't know if they've emailed me back. I'll check it tomorrow.
And it doesn't matter, right? I mean, and then it doesn't matter. And then the level of importance that we give other people's urgency, you know, when we get taken over by other people's urgency, then we lose our peace. And if we check an email at 11:00 at night, and if that email causes us to suffer in some way, or to mind, you know, just to go into that cycling of worry, you know, unless we make a commitment to ourselves to protect our peace, other people will take it because they don't know any differently. And if we're not the gatekeepers of our own peace, a peaceful mind and a quiet heart, that's something that, you know, I really value, and I had to learn to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely something I need to work on. So this conversation's
we all do.
a great reminder. So I'd love for you to talk about your book, Some Days I Flip My Lid, and your kind of inspiration behind it, and tell us about it.
Yeah. So for years, I worked in schools and I taught kids Dr. Dan Siegel's hand-brain model. And he basically coined this, you know, flipping our lid. I mean, that's been around for years and years and years. I don't know how long, but I remember as a child, you know, people would say, I'm going to flip my lid, you know, and lots of different versions of that. But Dr. Dan Siegel is a clinical psychologist, I believe, or psychiatrist out of UCLA. And he talks a lot about the brain. And so I would go into classrooms and teach kids the hand-brain model. And basically you take your hand and it's an open palm and you tuck your thumb underneath and you roll your fingers over, and the 4 fingers in the front of the hand represent the prefrontal cortex. And again, that's our thinking brain. And when our thumb is tucked under there, what that represents the amygdala, then we are safe, protected, and loved, and the prefrontal cortex is online. So I can do my best learning when my amygdala is, the kids say, tucked, safely where it needs to be. But if I get a little overwhelmed or a little upset or a little afraid or a little, nervous or whatever, or I have a worry that's persistent or chronic, then with this hand-brain model, we start to elevate the fingers up a little bit, and the amygdala, the thumb underneath there, starts to show. And it's just a real great visual reminder or a visual practice for kids to see, oh, then the amygdala is in charge. And then they learn about when the amygdala happens, when the amygdala comes on, there are only a few things that our brain can do and humans can do. We fight with our words or our body. We run away, which is called flight, or we freeze. And so fight, flight, freeze are the predominant factors of when the amygdala is working. And the central nervous system is dysregulated. And there are neurotransmitters and the chemicals in our brain and our body are off balance because we are now instead of having serotonin and dopamine and all of those things that help us feel regulated and safe and happy and productive and can make us, be productive, we're dealing with cortisol and adrenaline running through us. And all of those things are typical and normal. But when we have toxic stress, when we're constantly in that lid flipping place, then we are dealing with high levels of cortisol running through our body, high levels of norepinephrine and adrenaline, and our body is not equipped to deal with that. And so just bringing that awareness to kids and to teachers, and for teachers to be able to say, oh, that kiddo comes through the classroom and they're already posturing at me. They're already upset. They're already in that fight, flight, freeze. For me to step back from that and not see that little human as a person that's just going to make my day a living, nightmare today, see them as, oh, that person, look at this person who's suffering. And now I have this person now I can see this little person as a person who comes through the door as a walking cortisol, so I wrote the book because teachers were constantly saying, could you please write this down? Could you please write this down? It's difficult for me to remember, as an educator, when this kid is seeking to go to the bathroom or to the nurse for the 5th time in one day, that they're not, they're not just trying to be a pain, that there really is something, the gut and the brain and the central nervous system are all tied together. So I started writing Mindful Max Goes to School, and I wrote this book, and God bless Hannah. I asked her to illustrate it. It was 32 pages.
I did.
And she did. She illustrated the
whole thing.
And I took it to a local publisher here in Maine, Thomaston, Maine. And she sat down with me and said, oh my gosh, Kellie, she said, you have tried to write every mindfulness book in one sitting. And her recommendation to me, and I've never written, I'm not a writer, I'm not an author. She said, get a great big shoebox and put this manuscript and all these beautiful illustrations in the shoebox and forget about it. And when you're in a situation and a nugget of inspiration attaches itself to you, then write that book. And I did. I came home and I put the manuscript. I wasn't delusional. I didn't think that, I'm gonna get a winner the first time I ever write a book. And so I did. I thought she had some really great recommendations for me. So my son, he had just purchased himself a great big pair of Chippewa boots, size 13, and that was the biggest shoebox I had. So I stuck the manuscript in it and put it in a closet. And about a year later, I was in a classroom and I was teaching the hand-brain model. And this little boy said to me, well, Mrs. Baille, if the amygdala is bad, why do we have it? Why can't we just cut it out? And I said, oh, well, we need the amygdala because that's going to, it helps us stay safe and helps us know not to touch a rattlesnake or walking into the street. It helps us stay safe. Yeah, but I don't. And I would use the words flip my lid. And he's like, yeah, but I don't understand. Why do I flip my lid? And I said, buddy, I don't know. Some days we just flip our lids. And that moment was the inspiration. I just, I had this, I'm going to write that book. I'm going to write the book of the fight, flight, freeze. And, I think I heard you say at the beginning that my children, Hannah and Doyle, are my best life teachers. Well, they certainly have been. And so Doyle is depicted. Hannah used her brother's likeness of when he was really little. And he was the best lid flipper I've ever been blessed to know. And would go in and out of, fight, flight, freeze his entire life. And so I just wrote it from a place of knowing a little boy, who sometimes was a tiger ready to roar. And sometimes, so that's the book. And Hannah was on board, and I had no idea who was going to publish it or how it was going to get published. I just knew I needed to write it. And one thing led to another. And somehow I met Linda Jackson through Pesci Publishing, and the rest is history. And she said, hey, do you have any workbooks or anything that, I think I was thinking about becoming a speaker for Pesci and going out and talking about Calm Cool Kids and how to use mindfulness in the classroom. And while we were trying to work out that end, somebody, the project manager, asked me if I had any workbooks that could go with my training. And I said, no, but I do have a children's book that is in a closet in a shoebox. And so he, this very kind man, his name's Clark Christensen. He hooked me up with Linda Jackson, and we had a phone conversation, and she asked to see the manuscript, and I sent it to her, and she asked if we had any illustrations. And I said, well, I have a daughter who illustrated, but I don't know if I can get her to do this again because none of the pictures here were made yet. And so I had just twisted Hannah's arm and said, if you can just do the first 5 pages, just illustrate 5. And she did. And I remember being at Hannaford right before Thanksgiving in 2018. And I got an email from Linda saying, we love this book. And here's your book contract. And
that's awesome.
That was super exciting. Yeah, that was so exciting. And I remember calling Hannah right away. She was finishing up her teaching program at the University of Maine. And I said, Hannah, we have a book contract. You're not going to believe it. And she's like, I can't do that.
I flipped my lid.
She flipped her lid. But Linda and the Pesci family, they have just embraced us. And Hillary and everybody there, they're just, tremendous humans, and I can't thank them enough. They loved this book. It was a blessing to work with them. They were really just so kind about timelines for Hannah while she was student teaching and trying to finish things. And this book has been overwhelmingly a great success, and we weren't prepared. No. We were not prepared.
I think that's when you know, though, that it's needed.
I guess, yeah. I mean, teachers are just Hannah and I we were able to go to KidsCon New England, which was really kind of a crazy thing. It was mostly for comic books, but they had a literacy and art alley. Yep. And we took some days, I flipped my lid there, and people were just buying it, and because it was so different. And relatable. Mm-hmm. And parents were coming up and saying, "Oh my gosh, Johnny, that's you. Look, that's you." And I think we've only had one person say, I don't tend to look at the Amazon. I try not to pay attention to the reviews because, sometimes people can be, harsh. Not so kind, a little harsh. And we've developed a little bit of it. But, we've been overwhelmingly surprised by how many people have said, this is for adults. I wish I had this when I was, a kid. And, because it's backed by brain science, and we've really broken it down to helping people understand when you're dysregulated, it's your protecting brain that's in charge. So, but one person said, I'm returning this book because it doesn't relate to my child.
It's only for kids with issues.
Yeah. This person felt that this was for children with special needs. So I just want to say out here in all of the, miraculous mama land, that this book is really for us all. We all fall kids. We all lose our cool, and the mindfulness practices that we've put in the book are really about breathing on purpose. Mm-hmm. That's the very first mindfulness practice, centering yourself, feeling your feet on the floor, knowing that your body is in the chair, slowing your breathing, paying attention, noticing the breath as it comes in through your nose and out through your mouth. 3 slow, deep breaths. And Max, our little character, he brings this into the schools, and every school in RSU 40 and Midcoast Maine, they're doing breath breaks and breath break clouds. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be part of helping kids feel safe and protected and loved when they're away from their families and the people that they trust.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do agree. It is a practice for us all. All right. So it's a new year. And do you know what I really needed new underwear? I've had the same underwear forever. They're literally falling apart. And Vito's like, you need new underwear. All of them have holes. They're not okay. And I'm like, I haven't shopped for underwear in so long. I didn't even know where to go, but I actually went to Third Love because I'd used their bras before and absolutely loved them. And so I went online, ordered some of their underwear, and they're so comfortable. I got the high-waisted cheeky underwear that are cotton, and I absolutely love them. And then I went down the bra train. I was like, maybe I need a new bra too. Before I had ordered their wide strap bra, which is so comfortable and I love. But the reason I love them is because they're designed for your perfect fit, and they have bras in over 80 sizes. I had been wearing the wrong size forever and I had zero idea about it. And you can find your fit in 60 seconds. You take the Fit Finder quiz, answer a few simple questions, and it's actually fun and it takes less than a minute. And did you know that the breast shape actually matters when finding a good fit? Because it does. And they have the perfect fit promise. Every customer has 60 days to wear it, wash it, and put it to the test. And if you don't love it, you can return it, and Third Love will wash it and donate it to women in need, which is really cool. They value comfort and quality. It's hands down the most comfortable bra that you'll own. So when I went to go order underwear on there, I decided I need a bra for at home because a lot of times I just don't wear one, but I'm like, I need a bra to wear at home. And so I went on and I got their seamless lounge bra. It is super, super comfortable. What I like about it is it's not the normal bra shape. It's more comfortable, a relaxed fit, but it still has the adjustable straps because my boobs actually, I feel like they change throughout the month, whether I'm on my period or what, but they have the adjustable back strap, and the straps that go over your shoulder are adjustable as well. So I absolutely love it. It's super, super comfortable. I ordered 2 of them because all I had was sports bras and regular bras. So I'm like, I need a lounging bra, which is what it's called, the lounge bra. But they're awesome. They donate their gently used return bras to women in need. They've donated over $15 million in bras. So we love companies that give back and don't waste. I love that they're not wasting their products. And Third Love knows that there's a perfect bra for everyone. So right now they are offering the listeners 15% off your first order. Go to thirdlove.com/mamas now to find your perfect fitting bra and get 15% off your first purchase. That's thirdlove.com/mamas for 15% off today. When you were just talking there, I could see so much of it in my doula work because I work as a birth doula. And I mean, that's something I'm constantly telling moms when they're in labor. And it is relaxing your face, relaxing your body, taking deep breaths, allowing the contraction to flow through you. Don't tense up. And it's breathing on purpose and taking slow, deep breaths and, letting your body do what it needs to do. And I feel like every birth I go to, I always learn some sort of lesson. And it is a practice for all of us, for sure. I mean, I said it earlier, it's something I need to work on. I keep telling myself forever, I want to wake up every morning and just meditate, whether that's just taking intentional breaths and stretching or, I started reading some meditations again from Richard Rohr. I love Richard Rohr's work, but trying to do something intentional in the morning. So I'm glad that you touched on that because that really does set the tone for the rest of your day.
Absolutely. Just a mindful intention. And one of the things that I notice when I teach classes in mindfulness is that, people will become very quick to judge themselves. Oh, I can't do this. My mind wanders, I'm so happy to be able to share with them that, the mind and the brain are two different things. And the latest brain research out of Harvard University is that 47% of the time that we're awake, our brain is wandering. We're either engaged in a memory, having a thought, or making a plan. And so if half of the time our mind is doing that because we're in that, automaticity place, we're in that non-awareness place, how much more fulfilling can our lives be if we can help ourselves by just catching on purpose. Oh, there I am, mind wandering. And, the other piece to this is, really comes from anybody that's, a guru in mindfulness, but John Kabat-Zinn says it the best when he says, mindfulness is about being right here, right now on purpose. It's present moment awareness with curiosity and interest and without judgment. So when we notice that we're mind wandering, we use a practice called anchoring, and we don't say to ourselves, oh, there I go again. I'm so bad at this. This doesn't work for me. I should be able to do this better. I've been practicing meditation or mindfulness, moments for 2 years now. That's the mind has a mind of its own, and left unattended, we will wander. And brain research says almost half of the time we're awake, we're going to do that. So we can just give ourselves a little bit of a break and knowing that it's not our fault. I remember a little kid saying to me, oh my gosh, Mrs. Baille, it's not my fault. It's the cortisol in my brain. And I said, yeah, buddy, it's, you're flipping your lid because, so this is why we breathe on purpose, or we go for a mindful safari, or, we do mindful listening and mindful seeing. And, and every time you do that, we're connecting new neural pathways to the prefrontal cortex every time. So, when you're working with women who, are giving birth, and man, that's the biggest job there is. I've done it twice and it's not easy. If we can, get to that place where we can be outside of ourselves a little bit, and breathing, that breath work is so important. It is, like I said before, the number one best way to calm your central nervous system is to breathe. Mm-hmm. But we go against it because when we're in pain, we want to fight. Mm-hmm. We want to run away, or we freeze, and we're in labor and we're freezing. We're not helping that baby exit the world. We need to release and let go, but letting go is a very tricky thing to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I had mentioned before that letting go is actually my New Year's resolution, because you get so wrapped up in little things here and there. And, you had mentioned, looking at reviews. I had somebody who left me a review recently that I shouldn't have even read into, and it's like, my goal is just to let it go. It doesn't matter. Like, it does not matter. Like, my life goal and my purpose, my character and who I am has not changed. Like, you know, like it doesn't matter. And you can't let those things get to you because then they just consume so much energy and that energy is just wasted when you could be productive with that. So that's my New Year's resolution. Just when somebody says something or I hear something or even just an old memory or whatever it is comes up, just to not let it to consume me, just to let it go because it doesn't matter.
So one of the practices of mindfulness that you and your listeners might be interested in is called, is that allowance. So noticing, when something comes our way that evokes a strong response or a strong feeling in us. And it is, that's just normal. If somebody says something that causes you pain or causes you to suffer, or if you are noticing a painful, if you cut your finger on a piece of paper and you notice the pain, I mean, these are physiological things that happen to us. But the allowance piece is just saying, oh, wow, okay, I'm hurting, and allowing that hurt to be there. And then making the conscious notation in your mind, like I'm going to choose to let that go, because then we're teaching our mind that the mind is having this thought or feeling, but we can choose how we want to react or respond to that. So it's really tricky, especially for children, and adults, that if we're in that place of suffering. And, I had a little boy who said, this is just how we are. People are angry, Mrs. Baille. We're just all angry. My parents are angry. My grandparents are angry. We're just angry people. I can't be mindful, Mrs. Baille, because, my whole family's angry. And I, looked at that little human and thought, this is what he really believes about himself. And my thought was, what if there's another way? And so could you be open to the possibility that you can be angry for as long as you need to be angry, and then you don't have to be angry anymore because you can choose to feel differently. And I think that's, one of the things about mindfulness too, is that, permission to choose. And when we're in that place of automaticity, we feel like life is happening to us instead of life is happening for us. And so anytime anybody gives me feedback, I see it as a welcoming opportunity. Even if it hurts me, I see it as a welcoming opportunity to learn something about myself. Oh, that hurt me. I'm feeling it here. Or, oh, I'm noticing that I'm worrying about this and I'm feeling that worry here. It lives in my heart, or it lives in my neck, or it lives in, because it's hard to let it go. That's a cognitive, right? It's a cognitive thing. I just need to let this go. But what if we can't? What if it consumes us? And so that consumption, if we can sit with the consumption, there are some of us in the world that are addicted to that chaos or addicted to that, feeling. And so to feel it a different way means we need to allow that possibility to be in there. So each time you do a mindful practice, you're leaving space for yourself, for there to be a different outcome.
Yeah, no, I love that. I was literally going to say, like, so many people live as if life is happening to them, not for them, because I'm a certified life coach as well. And that's like one of the practices that we learned in it was kind of your view on life. Are things happening to you, or are you a part of what's happening, and instead of just life happening to you? So I love that you touched on that, because I was literally right when you were saying it, I was thinking it and I'm like, this lady's reading my mind.
I can't do that. I can't do that. Although my children will tell you they think I can.
It's a mom gift for sure.
I think it could be. It could be a mom gift. Yeah.
I think it is. I feel like mothers always know. My mom always knew things that I didn't tell her. So it's a mom thing for sure.
That's sometimes good and sometimes not so helpful.
Oh, absolutely. Not. Absolutely. Yeah. So Hannah, are you planning on illustrating more books?
Tell her.
Am I allowed?
Yeah, okay. We are allowed to say.
Okay, yeah. There's more in the works. We're currently working on a new one. I've started the first couple illustrations. We've developed the first character. You want to say her name? Her name's Grace, and she's super cute, and she's been approved, so she will be the face of the next book. And we're super excited about that.
So we have a contract that we just received from Pessy about a week ago for our sequel. They were asking us to please consider writing Some Nights I Flip My Lid.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I wasn't sure I really wanted to do that because I thought, oh boy, is this a one and done? And how am I going to, I mean, I really went into a place of self-doubt because again, I'm a speech pathologist, I have other things that I do, but I didn't have this, preconceived notion that I was going to be a children's author. That wasn't in my thinking. Although I came across a journal that I had written in about 5 years ago. I was cleaning out underneath our bed and found a journal, and it said, what do I want to accomplish in the next 5 years? And number 10 was write a children's book. And I didn't even remember. So maybe I manifested that. I put it out to the universe, and who knows, but Some Nights I Flip My Lid will be written from the perspective of a little girl named Grace, who closely matches this human that's sitting next to me. So where Doyle was a lid flipper, right from the get-go, and he was a failure to thrive baby, and everything was tricky for him. Hannah was a go-getter, but she would hold it all together. She would hold it all together at school, and then when she came home in her safe place, she would lose her ever-loving mind. And so it was nighttime. It was the evenings, it was the night terrors, or just me not being able to, as her mom, figure it out. She flipped her lid at home.
Yeah. And I still do that. Like, it's more of bottling it all up, keeping it all contained, not wanting other people to see it, and school not being like a safe place for me to have emotion and be a lid flipper like my brother, because that was where he felt comfortable. He didn't care. But for me, it was like, once I'm in my safe space, I need to come home. I don't want to talk to my mom. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm going to go to my room, process it out by myself, or try to, pretty unsuccessfully sometimes. But I think that's the direction for the next book, is going into the kids that don't feel comfortable at school, that home is their safe space, and they come home and process and let loose on their family because that's who they're comfortable with. So for me, that's definitely the kid that I was, and kids that I see at school too, where, I worked in a behavior classroom, and we had both. We had kids that would bottle it all up and explode, and we had kids that, we were their safe people. So I think people were excited when I started talking to them, because I was, working and collaborating with my coworkers too, and trying to come up with a plan for my mom and I, because we didn't know exactly where we were going with the next one. And a lot of people were like, well, my kid, that's our kid too. Like, that we would love to see a book where it feels safe at home, because that's totally my daughter, and I would buy that book. So I'm excited that it can look like me, and there'll be a little Grace, and it's a family experience. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. So the mindful practice. So just like Some Days I Flip My Lid, this will be, part of this series. Linda's, looking to us to possibly, expand this and have it be a Calm Cool Kid series, which is, wonderful and a bit overwhelming at the same time. But we're just taking this one book at a time. But, as in Some Days I Flip My Lid, I, built in the mindful practice of breathing on purpose. And that was, the focus of that, because it's the first mindful practice that most people can wrap their brain around, and everybody. And, when you're upset, people will say, hey, breathe, stop and breathe, or just stop, calm down, and it doesn't help to be told to do that. So to, be able to stop and breathe on purpose. So this book, Some Nights I Flip My Lid, I think will focus on a mindful practice called grounding. Pessy is looking for us to show some way for families to work in a co-regulatory way. So how, because this is the buffer, Max's buffer is his sweet mama. And so just like in Some Days, Grace's buffer will be her mom too, and her dad probably. But it will be something the whole family can do together. And so that co-regulatory piece is not just telling your kids to calm down or take a breath or to, take a walk or, get a drink of water. It will be about how can we do this as a family and build this into our family, our day, which kind of, I think, brings us full circle to what you were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast. What can parents do? What can families do to bring mindfulness into, so a grounding practice is really utilizing the senses. So taking a big deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, count to 5. And, when you open your eyes, name inside your mind 5 things you can see. And then, so it's about, really a cognitive thing, here's some tangible things I can do. And then it follows, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And, when you open your eyes, 4 things you can touch. breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. When you open your eyes, 3 things you can hear, that sort of thing. So it goes through all of the senses. And so as we're developing this book, that's kind of the directionality that we're going to be going in. And it can be very, very fun. We're teaching grounding to teachers, and kids love it because it teaches them to be very attuned to auditory, very attuned to the visual, very attuned to the tactile, and then, smelling. And so anyhow, it's a fun, I think it's going to be a fun adventure, and it's just starting to shape up, but we do have the main character, and she is lovely. She's very sweet.
Oh, that's so fun.
She is a lid flipper.
I feel like a lot of parents are going to be able to relate to that one as well.
Maybe even the lady that returned the book to Amazon will say, this one I can relate to.
Maybe.
We can't get them all.
We can't get them all. It's all right. It is.
It is all right, honestly. The people who, are ordering the books and reading it, they're telling people and they're taking it into their homes. And that's like one thing I always tell myself too. I'm like, if one person listens to this and gets something from it, then I did my job. If one person heard this and is like, oh my gosh, I feel heard or I feel validated, like it was worth it. And so it's cool. I'm excited to see when your next book comes out. Where can people follow you guys or buy your book, any of that sort of information?
So we're such novices. Well, I should say I am. I was contacted the other day by a person who said, hey, I just heard about your book. Do you have Twitter or Facebook? I'm like, no. So
we're working on
that. We're working on that. I do have a website, Calm Cool Kids Educate. And that's just up and coming. But I think Hannah and I are going to build a Facebook page. Yeah. And because this thing is just taken off, it's just crazy how many people have reached out about this book again. And we're so blessed and thankful, but people are buying it on Amazon, and people can order it straight through our publisher, PESI Publishing. They have books there too. And it's showing up in workshops across the nation. Linda's, her team is pushing it out. There are a lot of, PESI does a beautiful job in workshops and trainings across the country, really, for, a whole plethora of things that teachers and clinicians and families and caregivers need. So I was going to say that when we were at the what was it? The Kids Con, a teacher walked up and said, oh my gosh, that's the book that we just got in New Hampshire. And I thought, what do you mean? How did it? So Linda's just doing it. She's like, oh yeah, we're sending those books out to lots of conferences. But yeah, Amazon and PESI seem to be the place. It is popping up in different bookstores. I know a couple of our local bookstores here in Belfast, Maine are carrying it, and that's exciting. Barnes & Noble, Target, you can go into any bookstore and order it there. But yeah, so it's taking off. And now maybe with your listeners, some other people will be excited about it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm all about building kids' book collections. I think that that's so important, especially we live in such a distracted time in society. So things that you can do, that you can hold in your hands and you can read and you can bring you present. I'm all about that.
Yeah, we're glad. This has been a great opportunity for us to spread the word, and we're really excited for this podcast, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Kellie and Hannah, so much for coming on and speaking to us.
You take care. Thank you so much.
You as well.